On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick reunite for some good old Star Wars rumors and news speculations. In particular, they'll riff on some Ahsoka S2 rumors and leaked images to discuss where the season may head on Peridea. But they'll also touch on new updates for Starfighter, Galactic Racer, and Shadow of Maul. Punch it, Chewie. Hey now, everybody, no tears this week from me because young Nick is here to keep me sane so I don't have a crash out live on the show. Hey, welcome back to the SWTS. If you watched last week, you know what I'm talking about. If not, why don't you go ahead and tune into that episode where we had a little bit of a, I guess you would call it a monologue from myself. Just kind of feeling the way of the world. Usually don't let that out live, but I couldn't help it. I don't know what the hell was going on last week, but like I said, young Nick's here. I'm happy. He's going to keep me focused. We're not going to go into the weeds and lament the fact that we all feel like Frodo right now, or a good chunk of us, at least those of us that still have some humanity left in our soul. You know the quote I'm talking about, Nick, with between Frodo and Gandalf, where Frodo's kind of lamenting the fact that, why did the ring have to come in the... Why is the ring fucking with me during my lifetime? And Gandalf's like, listen, man, none of us get to choose when we're around. We just gonna have to figure out how to do the best with our time. So I know you feel me here, but it was it was a different live last week. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, look, the state of the United States right now, not enviable.
Not very united anymore.
No. I mean, I was never like, the earth is just pieces of rock moving in a sea of water via plate tectonics. So I am not somebody who feels any sort of like link to a particular piece of rock.
Amen.
So I don't get all of this the nonsense that's being thrown around about like people standing on a piece of ground that has been here for billions of years. So it's a sad state of affairs that we're in now. But
But hey, like I said, we'll
we
try
do what we can do.
Yeah, we'll try and shift focus a little bit. This week's SWTS. I mean, again, it feels like forever since Nick's been around. I just schedules, this, that. We've kind of made the decision these days, like, hey, if there's a reason to do a show and we both can do it, we'll do it. If we've got something else to do in our lives, we'll probably do that. And my dumb ass, because I'm the one with OCD and an addiction to this dumb shit, we'll still produce some form of content. But I always appreciate when my man's here. So today, luckily, we can go back to what we used to do when we started this stupid thing many, many years ago, and that's to sit around, discuss Star Wars news, leaks, updates, rumors, and give you our speculations, our thoughts, what might be coming down the pipe, and what means what, now that we've had some more light shed on some upcoming Star Wars. So that's always fun. We don't have to sit here and make up some special segment or decide. Nick, you would have loved this one. It was like 2 weeks ago. I think I tried to tier rank all 85 Star Wars games ever made. Exactly. That's the type of shit you get into when the Disney and Lucasfilm kind of hate one of their main IPs and have more or less stopped producing content for it. So here we are. But we do have some good news. I mean, we've got some juicy Ahsoka Season 2 rumors, set leak things that might hint to what's going on Peridea in that galaxy. Why did that planet appear dead? What was up with those Night Sisters? What are we going to see in Season 2 in terms of the Mortis God? Or are they really going to get into that? Or was that just kind of like a fake out at the end with Balin standing on the finger of the Father? Then we've got some concrete news details on Galactic Racer, the new racing game coming out later this year, which I think should excite some fans. We get some insights into what type of racers and what fans are going to be, or gamers will be able to do with their race cars in that game. We've got another update on Starfighter. I know some of you are worried about Legacy either being in or not in it in terms of characters, and I think we got some pretty stark clarity from the movie's writer. And then finally, we've got a preview of the Shadow of Maul comic series coming out in March, which is going to serve as a direct prequel to Maul Shadow Lord, which we got that excellent trailer at this point like a week and a half ago. I know you're a busy man, Nick, but did you catch the trailer at all for Maul? Did you check out its debut to see Janix, the new planet, and some of the new characters?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I watched it. I don't remember a thing from it. I watched it one time. Don't remember anything. But I'm sure it'll be fun. I'm sure it'll be a fun time.
Yeah. So
I hope it's something that lasts more than one season.
And that's the other thing. I mean, not only do we get the trailer, but we got all sorts of information dumped on Shadow Lord. We know when it's coming out, April 6th. We know it's kind of taking the Andor model, Nick. I don't know if this is the new thing at Disney where like, hey, we completed something and we're going to shove it down your throats in a month's time. We don't want it to breathe at all. I guess it's serialized, so that's good. It's going to tell a story from start to finish over its 10 episodes, but yeah, we got that coming out. But today, like I said, there's going to be a prequel comic, and we got some more insights into that to really help inform us what we're going to see from the Shadow Lord himself come April. All right, let's go ahead and kick things off. We usually do Ask Us Anything. It's been kind of dying out, but of course we have a diehard who still likes to ask questions. And then a new fan on YouTube, Nick, NASCAR Talk, who's been asking some questions. So we got 2 questions to go through. Then we'll get right into it after I have a little mini review of a fantastic film I caught last Thursday called Send Help. No, I have not gone out and seen the self-produced, directed, acted in, everything camera shot movie from Markiplier, who's I guess a famous YouTube guy, but kudos to him for pulling that shit off. It's called like what, My Iron Lung or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, Iron.
Have you heard about this story, Nick? Like I didn't know it was a video game, but this dude literally with zero studio help essentially made like 6 times his money back in 1 week. And I think he was like the number 2 or number 3 box office release last week. So yeah, I guess if anything, hey, kudos to the small man, even though Markiplier isn't some
he's not
middle class citizen. I mean, he's got 38 million subs on YouTube. He's been doing it for decades, so I'm sure he's quite a millionaire himself. But the fact that he was able to make a movie literally by himself with some other friends, no studio involvement, and get it into thousands of theaters across the country, that's a fucking win for self-publication or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, independent projects, stuff like that. I Markiplier, I mean, I've known of him. I will say, like, I wasn't a huge follower of his, or I am not a huge follower of his, but I know that he has been on YouTube for forever. Decades at this point. One of the real like faces of the early YouTube content creator movement, and has had maintained a strong follower base for years, and really started kind of in that video game space. So it is interesting to see that somebody with those type of credentials, like being primarily a content creator, can do something like this, can really make a splash in the the movie world. So really cool to see that happen.
That's impressive. I mean, again, I don't want to get into it, but when you start to see everyone connected to the Ep guy and his islands and whatnot, it is amazing that Plier could pull something like that off and not have the machine come down, or this cabal of our human overlords want a piece of his action. So kudos to him. I don't really have any interest in the film. I've got no reference on the game, but maybe when it comes out streaming, I'll check it out. All right, here we go. Ask Us Anything. Like I said, whenever we do it, we try to do it every week, but since we have no reach and no one gives a shit about Star Wars right now, it's hard to get some questions asked. We do have 2, but like I said, just keep following the socials of Star Wars Time Show, IG. We've got an open Discord. You can check it out in the description of this video. While you're down there considering giving this video a like, drop a comment, hell, sub. It doesn't take any money, but if you do feel a bit generous, you can also become a channel member for as low as $1.99. I don't know how many we have left. I haven't looked. Their names are scrolling across here. Some of them probably don't pay anymore, but we're lazy and we have not removed their names yet because we love you, even if you quit paying us and quit watching us. So that's how to get involved in Ask Us Anything. But we got a question here from, like I said, Nick, someone over on YouTube called NASCAR Talk with Jack Sabo or Sabo. And he's saying here, do y'all think Star Wars can claim the best animated TV show with the Clone Wars and the best live-action show with Andor? Maybe just my opinion, but I think they're both the best shows in each of those categories. So, Nick, it's been a while since your vocals have graced the channel. What say you about this question from NASCAR Talk?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a wide-ranging question, right? Like this covers like all TV and animated TV of all time. So let's try to narrow it down a little bit, right? I mean, I think that I don't watch a lot of animation as an adult. Like I'll catch like very specific animated shows if it really is up my alley, but I really haven't been somebody who's dedicated a lot of time to watching animated TV in a while. So obviously for me, in my perspective, I do think that Clone Wars ranks up there as one of the best animated shows that I've ever seen.
True.
It straddles a line really well between like the 4 kids side of things, and then like a little bit more mature storytelling in the different arcs that they go through in the seasons. Especially season 7 is like very focused on like, hey, this is like more of a serious tone, very action oriented, much more for an old, like a mid-teens to old adult aged people out there watching it who are fans of Star Wars. Excellently executed with fantastic voice actors and live action mocap and stuff like that. So for me personally, I do think that Clone Wars ranks up there as one of the best animated series of all times. It also like pioneered a completely new style of animation that we had never seen before, which was something that's persisted for many years. I mean, going on almost 3 decades at this point. We're coming up close to it. If you think about the Star Wars, well, 2 decades in full. Pretty soon when you think about the release of the Star Wars animated Clone Wars animated movie. So very impressive that they pioneered a brand new animation style for it and were able to carry on a Star Wars story in animated form for as long as they did. So really love that one. In terms of Andor being the best live action show ever, I mean, I can't claim that. I think that season 2 is definitely something special because it speaks to a very specific moment in time that we're in now, and we can draw a lot of parallels to what we're seeing in our real lives now. I think the acting in that show is fantastic. I think that the writing in that show is also very high level. Can you hold it up to something, like it's so hard to say, right? Like there's so many different genres of live action
That's
TV.
the key.
Like
it's genre is the key.
Yeah, it's like I will tell you this, that like probably my favorite live action TV show of all time is 30 Rock. And it's because I can watch 30 Rock when I don't have to watch it in order. Yeah, Liz Lemon and Jack Donaghy and Tracy, like all of the people. It's just a hilarious show. Like, like me and Taylor are rewatching 30 Rock now as like our, post dinner pre bedtime show where like we watch like, 30 minutes of TV and then like go through our wind down routine. So like I think that for me that's it, but obviously very different genre, very different type of storytelling. I think that some people would argue if you wanted to like keep it genre specific that in that realm that Andor is competing against, you have shows like Game of Thrones, which is like a fantasy kind of drama,
pittered out towards the end.
Yeah, like definitely didn't finish as strong as Andor did, but also ran much longer. I think you could also probably put like Breaking Bad in there, another like heavy drama series.
Now you're hitting on something. That's where I was going to go, because I'm kind of with you. It's like if we caveat this question with just sci-fi, then I think NASCAR Talk has a point, because as you said, Clone Wars, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever invested 7 seasons worth of watching an animated series. Plus,
Yeah.
it really fills in some gaps and definitely paints much more broad strokes about what's happening during the Clone Wars than we got in any of the live action films. So I think the Clone Wars really is in a class or league of its own. And outside of being a little kid and watching cartoons, I mean, even back then they weren't very serialized and they didn't really connect, and nothing really lasted with me. I'm not into anime or manga, so I'm not a big Studio Ghibli guy and all that stuff that some of you get into. So yeah, I do think animated series for sure. But like Nick said, I mean, Andor is fantastic, and I'm higher on it than he is. But when you really think about all of TV, all of time, different genres, I mean, even if we just use a generic one like a drama, as Nick said, I do think from top to bottom, Breaking Bad is probably a better complete work than Andor season 1 and 2. But if we're just talking sci-fi, then again, I do think Andor could be considered one of the best, if not the best. Especially because Tony kept it short and sweet. He didn't fuck around with multiple seasons, kind of like a Game of Thrones that, as I said, shit the bed towards the end, like a lot of TV shows do after they've been on for too long. So there you go, NASCAR talk. You know, we with a little caveats, I think your argument definitely holds some weight. But if you want to start really poking into it and comparing Andor especially to the wider body of dramas out there, there are some bangers that have come out. And you know, there's good TV going on right now. We got the Fallout season 2 finale coming up this week. That's been a pretty fun show to watch and follow. Doing a rewatch of Stranger Things and remembering like, oh, that's why this became a phenomenon. I mean, I know it took them 10 years to finish it, but when you go back and watch season 1, 2, 3, it's like, holy shit, yeah, this is some good stuff. It just, you got to get a little quicker, Duffer Brothers, if you want to tell a story with kids so they don't look like they're 35 playing high school people. All right.
Yes.
Thanks for the question there, NASCAR Talk. We got one more, and I'm sure it's going to have some football nuance to it. It's coming from Kramer here, our boy Mike Kramer in the old Discord chat. What's going on here? Now none of my windows are updating. But anyways, while I'm fixing that, Nick, here we go.
Yeah.
Number one, if they made a live-action Thrawn series, who do you guys think would make a young Thrawn? I'm currently going through his trilogy, so go ahead and you start on that one.
Who would make a good young Thrawn?
Right.
If they were to make a young Thrawn series. That's a really good question. I mean, honestly, I don't know how old Matt Smith is, but he has one of those faces that just kind of stays young. He just looks young. He has that angular facial build that that Thrawn has.
Does he look like Lars at all? Lars, what's his name? Mikkelsen?
Yeah, they look pretty similar. Like, yeah. So, I mean, in terms of younger, he's born 82, so he's he's a little closer to your age than my age.
80.
I think I was born so I was 88, so he's a little bit younger than you, but he has that like persistent young look to him. So I think that if you were to do a show that maybe like dips into past Thrawn and then also includes like Lars as current Thrawn, I think that Matt Smith would be a good fit.
I could see that.
I think that he can really deliver that type of performance as well. So I would say that. I don't think you would want to go with somebody as young as like a Timothy Chalamet or like still in their like 20s and stuff like that.
Chalamet, you know? Thrawn would be fucking great, dude. Like a little waifish Thrawn. I mean, I love Timmy, but he is not a big male.
No.
You know what I mean? Like he's very petite for a male, but he's good in Marty Supreme and other stuff. All right. Yeah, I can see Matt Smith. I mean, especially if you think about Thrawn, Rebels Thrawn in particular. I mean, I think young Matt Smith lines up with him perfectly. I'm sure they could make some makeup changes to have him look a bit like Lars, who is the live-action Thrawn in the Ahsoka series. All right, this one's for me. Matt, did you ever see Big Ben play? If so, what was that like? Of course I did, buddy. I was 24 when he started. He came off the bench for what the hell was that? This is one of the guy from the XFL that made it and became the Steelers quarterback for a little bit. What the hell was his name?
Oh shit! Yeah, because he wasn't right after Cordell Stewart.
No. No, we
he
literally
was.
used an XFL guy, and he was decent. Like, he wasn't bad. I think he won, like, the inaugural XFL championship. Either way,
Fuck, I can't remember now. Yeah.
he gets hurt game 1 or 2 of the 2004 season, and Ben came in, and the rest was history. I mean, listen, early on, you could definitely question Ben's moral character. He made some stupid decisions, especially winning the Super Bowl and then smashing his brains on the pavement riding a motorcycle, which screwed them from repeating the next year. Then he kind of got into that stuff at clubs and whatnot. He's a man of God now, so I guess there's that type of shit. But yeah, listen, Big Ben, love him or hate him, one of the best quarterbacks of my time. He probably should have won at least 3 Super Bowls, if not 4. Should have been to many more. The problem was he had Mike Tomlin as his coach and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in the AFC conference. I know some people try to compare Josh Allen to Big Ben. I mean, it's somewhat similar. Ben wasn't as much of a runner, but Ben was someone it was nearly impossible to take him down, literally without breaking his ankles or giving him a high ankle sprain. He was a fucking meathead back there, and I do respect what he brought to my team. All right, Nick, this one's for you. Want to meet up for coffee? I'll be in your neck of the woods March 13th through 14th. Or what?
Here's what I'll tell you, Mike. If that period of time is like, I totally would.
Knee deep SXSW, right?
Yeah, I would say South by Southwest is March 12th through the 18th, and I'm going to be on site
at the show, right?
Yeah, I have to work on site at the show, so unfortunately, I will not be able
Kramer,
to do
just
that.
go down to the venue and keep saying, "Hey, I know Nick. He's supposed to let me in."
Yeah, right. Yeah. See if that gets you anywhere.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't get young Nick in trouble. But
yes,
I know for a fact he would meet you if he was not working. So don't worry about it, Kramer. Don't take it personally. All right, well, there you go. That's Ask Us Anything. Like I said, if you want to get involved, hell, just start submitting questions on our social platforms, and we'll build up an archive. Because I think we're going to put this segment to bed for a little bit, because it's literally usually just Kramer, and we love you, Kramer. Yeah. But
maybe we'll do it once a month after we can get some.
There you go.
I mean, yeah, we'll switch it from weekly to
in
monthly.
The end, it's kind of turned into Ask Mike Kramer. Have Mike Kramer ask us anything. So we appreciate you for keeping it alive for a while. But we're going to go ahead and put this one in memoriam for a bit. All right, Nick, that brings us up to the next segment. You know me, I like to watch movies, try to catch at least one a week because I'm an AMC A-list guy. You get 4 now a month. It's still the best deal out there if you like going to movies. Although I really want to get one of those stadium theaters. Do you guys have one of those yet down in Austin? You know, where like people
stadium theater.
Well, I don't. That's not the right name, but someone just sent me another shot. They're watching the OG Willy Wonka in it, Nick. So you got like the main screen, but then there's like an OmniMax screen over you. So, you know, for like Wonka, when they're in the tunnel and he's doing that trippy shit, you can see the scene playing out, but then everything around you is like those lights in the tunnel going by, and it gets really, you know, almost like it's like a mini sphere. How about that?
Okay.
So they do like sporting events in it, like pay-per-views, and it feels like you're sitting in the stadium, shit like that. So
yeah, I don't think we have one in Austin, but there may be some, like one somewhere else, probably like Dallas or Houston in Texas.
Okay.
So, but not one in my neck of the woods.
All right. I was like, man, I was telling my wife, I was like, we should see if they franchise these things, because it seems like a draw. You know, it's not just a movie theater. Yeah, they'll play movies, but you know, for example, Royal Rumble was this weekend, and instead of, you know, paying Peak or whatever the freak it is now, $30 to Disney, ESPN, you could just go there and, you know, go have some drinks, have a dinner, check it out. All right. But like I said, real quick, I always like to at least give you one quick mini review before we get into the Star Wars stuff, because there is always time for Star Wars time. But I saw a fantastic movie last week. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Send Help. Rachel McAdams, Dylan O'Brien. I'm sure people have seen the trailers. It's kind of like a, you know, plane crash, island survival type of flick. And I don't know what it is about this movie, but I loved it. Like it exceeded all my expectations. I mean, I like survival movies anyways, but this one definitely has a different type of tone. There's a few twists in there where you really aren't necessarily seeing where things are going. Rachel McAdams, I know she won't get consideration for this because it's not like a big drama type of movie, but that lady needs some sort of an award for her performance in this film. She plays, Nick, early on, she plays like one of those just super nerdy people that they're not bad people. You don't hate them, but you get extreme douche chills from watching them and how they act and how people interact with them. And then, she's on the island and turns into kind of the survivalist, and you get to see a side of her you probably weren't expecting based on how she's portrayed early on. I just think she's fantastic. Dylan O'Brien also plays a really good dickhead role. It's just great. I mean, it completely exceeded all expectations. Highly recommend going to check this one out, even though it was made by a big studio and not Markiplier. But Doug, nice. It's a Sam Raimi movie, so I mean, there's a little bit of the horror element, but it's more just dynamics of people, how you treat people, how you may look at someone and underestimate them. So big fan of Send Help. All right, buddy, let's do it. This is how we used to do things around here. That's why we got our name, because there used to always be time for Star Wars time. But as we get older and as Lucasfilm tries to figure out what to do with their IP, that may not be the case anymore. But we do have some news to talk about. First one here, we've got an update on the Star Wars Galactic Racer video game, which was announced last year at the Game Awards. It's coming out in 2026. So we're going to get this game and then the tactical one that's coming out we've talked about before. But we got an update here from, I believe, the studio, which is Fuse Games. I think they're also behind the Burnout series. But the big thing here is I don't think this was ever made clear in the trailer because you didn't really get to see them. I mean, you mostly saw typical types of speeders or bikes in the trailer. And I know people are like, wait, we got a Star Wars racing game. Pod racers? Is it going to be in this Galactic Racer game? Well, we can tell you that yes, it is coming to Galactic Racer. So here's a few quotes here from the Fuse Games CEO and co-founder Matt Webster. He was talking to Games Radar Plus. Basically, if you know Fuse Games, you know that this is kind of their bread and butter, Nick. They're into the racing genre. Burnout, I believe, was one of their deals. But this Star Wars game, they're trying to get out in front and like let people know, like, hey, this is what you should expect. This isn't just going to be some arcade bullshit. And we are going to give fans what they want, what they expect in a racing game set in a Star Wars universe. So, like I said, first and foremost, here's your confirmation. Coming from Webster himself, you can't really make a Star Wars racing experience and not have pod racing, can you? The core fantasy of the game is becoming an elite racing pilot in the Galactic League, and pod racing is a pinnacle of speed and racing in the Star Wars galaxy. So, yes, there will be pod racers in Galactic Racer. That's the first reveal here. But also, he talks a little bit about the types of camera controls people are going to have. He says while the game is meant for third person, they are going to offer first person racing views for people that, get a little anal over that type of stuff. It's gonna have solo modes and multiplayer modes, which is interesting for a racing game. It means that maybe there's going to be some sort of campaign or some sort of solo challenges for gamers to take on. But I think I don't know if you were here when we were talking about this, but I was kind of riffing on it. Like, is this game going to be kind of like maybe like a Forza or a Gran Turismo, where if you're a gearhead, you can really tweak the car, or will you just be able to change the look and feel? But they're saying here, at least this Fuse guy, that gamers will not only be able to customize the look of their racers, but they'll actually be able to get in there and fine tune their race cars. So kind of like Gran Turismo. Building your very own Star Wars racecraft is a dream I'm sure many of us have had for a long time, and how you show up on the track is often as important as how well you race, especially against friends. So players will be able to not just modify the look of the vehicle, but its performance characteristics too. So it looks like, Nick, we get deep customization of the vehicles. Pod racing will be in the game itself, but all gamers will be able to choose the type of vehicle they want to go with. Is it a bike? Is it more of a speeder? Or are we going pod racer? So this sounds a bit more fleshed out than just some, rushed out the door arcade racer.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what's being described is very similar to like the Need for Speed games that I really got into, when they expanded it beyond just like, hey, you're drag racing this person, and then you're drag racing this person. It's like you have a little bit more of an open world that you can work around. You have your car that you can modify and build up. I don't know if they'll allow you to like have multiple racers, or like, hey, this is your pod racer and this is like your speeder and then this is your whatever, and you can use them for different missions, similar to what you could do in some of the Need for Speed games, specifically the ones that Ghost Games put out, which I remember were pretty fun to me at the very least. So having that level of depth beyond just like, all right, hey, hop online and then race somebody, like race in multiplayer. I think that having, a bit of a sandbox that you can just kind of ride around, pick up different missions, and then play through a story mode, like you mentioned, would be really attractive to me, because I'm not somebody who really ever got into like the online aspect of racing games. Like I never played like Forza or GT or Need for Speed online. I always just partook in the story single player modes. So if that's what's being offered in this game, that's probably what I'll play the most. But it is nice to know that there's going to be multiple different vehicle types. There's going to be customization that you can unlock and tune your car with, and the visual customization as well. So I do hope that they take advantage of like the wide breadth of ecosystems in the Outer Rim, whether it be like, hey, you're even if it is just like, hey, you're on one Outer Rim planet and then like you just kind of bop around there until you make a name for yourself, or if it gives you the option to say like, hey, there's a race happening here on Tatooine, but then hey, you can catch a cruiser over to another planet and race there as well.
I think you've hit on
yeah.
something, and I was mistaken for not bringing it up, but you are right. It sounds like the Outer Rim is going to be the location for these racing venues. So I think you're onto something. It's either maybe you're just on a singular planet. Hopefully not. More than likely, the circuit's probably going to be around different planets in the Outer Rim, because which could be Navarro, Tatooine, obviously, Nar Shaddaa, right? A lot of the Hut system planets would be out there. Yep. So, listen, this game's sounding better and better. All right, with each little update we get, it's sounding better and better. We still don't have a release date at this point. You might as well just plan on fall, late summer, fall, something like that, in time for holiday shopping. But it's sounding more than just a generic, let's slap something together and put the Star Wars aesthetics on it. So I'm digging it. So as we hear new things, of course, we'll report them right here on the SWTS, because there used to be time for Star Wars time, and we always try to make it. All right, the next story here is another update on the Starfighter film. And I know Nick and I, we've come at you before talking about how, Sean Levy was like, hey, I'm not beholden to any legacy stuff here. That Kathleen pretty much let me do whatever. We're going to set it 5 or so years after the end of TROS, but that doesn't mean we're even going to mention the events of that movie or any of the characters. And last week, a story came out over on Screen Rant. I think it was either like an interview or a summary of an interview with Jonathan Tropper, who apparently is either co-writer or writer on Star Wars Starfighter. And he kind of doubles down on what Levy was saying with they're not beholden to legacy Star Wars, where he just comes out and says this. Obviously lightsabers are a part of that universe and that part of that galaxy. I'm so careful not to reveal anything, but essentially, I think it's known that we have no legacy characters. You're not going to see any of the characters you've seen in the other movies. So there are certain things that are still hallmarks of Star Wars that it's good to have in there, but more than that, I can't say. So I think even you and I, maybe when we were kicking the tires on the Tom Cruise thing, like, oh, well, it's confirmed there's Force users in here. maybe Gosling Starfighter is trying to ferry the young kid we've seen in some of the promos to Rey's order. Well, if that's the case, they're either not going to use the name Rey's order or they're not going to show Rey, because it doesn't sound like this Chopper guy is pretty much he's doubling down on the fact that, listen, people, do not expect to see anyone or any alien, anything from the 9 Skywalker saga films.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, that's what this guy's saying, and I believe it. I mean, I think that like what's so crazy about the Star Wars universe as we've seen it now is like it's an entire galaxy, right? You have this whole galaxy of planets, and then everything that we see is about one family. it's about one family and essentially one villain. So I am interested to see that we can, like, if we can move away from that in film format and do it successfully. I think that we've been able to do that successfully in TV, obviously looking at Andor, also looking at Skeleton Crew, Mandalorian. So we know that there's success to be had outside of like the known characters. But I do think that, like, what you were mentioning about this, about Ryan Gosling's character kind of ferrying along Flynn Gray's character to a potential Jedi Order. Maybe you get a mention of Rey. Maybe you get a mention of, like,
I was gonna say, he says you won't see them. It doesn't mean we might not hear them or hear something about them, like a hollow or whatever.
I think that that's probably the safest way to play it, right? Is like you have this almost kind of like a an isolated duo on like an epic journey together, and what is surrounding them, like the surroundings of their galaxy, and what their mission is leading to, but not necessarily is going to be a part of, like, oh, here's Rey, or oh, look, we ran into Finn and in this little adventure or something like that, or oh no, we had a run-in with remnants of the First Order. So I'm very interested to see how they play it out. But I also think that, like, we always look at lightsabers and we're like, well, lightsabers are in it, that means that Force users are in it, so that means that there's going to be some sort of tie to the Jedi. Like, I am interested to see genuinely, like, what the lightsaber combat is going to be, if it's going to be Force users, or is it going to be like, hey, kind of like Finn did when we first saw Finn in the trailer for TFA. He takes out the blade and we're like, oh my god, he's a Jedi, like he's gonna be he's gonna be,
or like Knights of Ren type of characters where they're like adjacent dark side but not full on Sith.
Exactly. Or something similar to what we saw with the Ahsoka characters, with Shin Hati, and
Baylan and Shin,
and Baylan. I mean, Baylan, former Jedi; Shin, more of that, like,
correct,
just a completely different archetype of character. So
steady Boken Jedi. Yeah, remember he gave us that term. Rest in peace, Boken.
But yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how they use him.
It kind of like that even more than, like, listen, I'm not going to be stupid here. I'm definitely more intrigued for Starfighter with each news update, because while we get some more insights, it feels like the mystery thickens around this, where it's almost like they're going out of the way to be like, listen, this is going to be different Star Wars. Get used to it, people. It's going to be different. Don't come here and shit on it the day after, because it's not the same canned formula that you want to see from the Skywalker saga. And I'm glad that all of its creators are committed to it. So we still got plenty of time on this one, well over a year. This is the May 2027 movie. We got Mando and the little guy coming up this May. And I did see a new clip in theaters. It played actually right before Send Help. And it was funny. It's Din and Grogu kind of having a pep talk, and Din's letting him know how to wear his Mandalorian armor. Because remember, Nick, he now has the mithril shirt and a chest plate that the armor made for him in season 3. So let's just be prepared for some, I don't want to say like slapsticky humor between these two, but you're definitely going to get a lot of those scenes. And I know that's going to drive Nick insane, but you're going to get like some of these little jokey, master and apprentice type of things. And this formidable Mandalorian warrior sitting there lecturing a tiny diminutive Yoda species, like, and then this is how you got to wear your armor, buddy. This is what we do now that you're an apprentice and not just my ward. So I'm still excited, even though I'll be on a beach vacation, and Nick and I probably won't talk about it for like 2 weeks after it comes out. So it'll give us plenty of time to watch it, take it all in, and maybe go see it again if it warrants it. But there you go. That's your update on Starfighter. So let's move now right into Star Wars Shadow of Maul, which I keep getting confused with Maul Shadow Lord, but they are not the same thing. Just a little backstory here. Star Wars Shadow Maul is going to be a comic series that is going to serve as a direct prequel to Shadow Lord. So Shadow of Maul is coming out, I believe, March 6th. That'll at least be the first issue. I'm guessing it's going to be more than one issue. Because I'm stupid, I didn't really look into that. I will tell you it's being created by Benjamin Percy, who's the writer, and it's going to be illustrated by Madabek Muskebegov. Must have some Eastern Bloc relations with a name like that. But they've both done work. They've both done time in Star Wars comics before. In fact, I believe at least Benjamin has worked on a Maul comic before. So we know we're probably in good hands with these creatives working on the Shadow of Maul prequel comic. But here's why we're talking about this here. It starts to inform us more on a few things and a few characters we were introduced to in the Shadow Lord trailer. I know last week I was doing my best to speculate upon, who's this Brander Lawson and who's Two Boots and who's Riley Lawson. Is it his partner, his kid? Whatever, who's going to be the good guy, who's going to be the bad guy, who is really going to be Maul technically is going to be the antagonist, so who's going to kind of be our protagonist here. And we got some insights here via a kind of preview of this comic book. So like I said, this is going to tie directly into the animated series, so to me it's required reading. And Shadow Maul itself is being described as a crime story. In fact, the creative calls it a police procedural. So, people can get excited about that if you want. But like I said, it does inform us here straight up that the comic itself is going to focus on Maul, Brander Lawson, and his droid partner, Two Boots. So it's explained, Nick, that Brander Lawson and Two Boots will be Maul's nemesises in Shadow Lord. And I know you weren't here for the breakdown, so real quickly, Brander Lawson is going to be a kind of like a police captain on Janix, which is more or less a mafia-ran planet, but they have an agreement with local law enforcement, like, hey, let's just keep everything on the up and up. I won't mess with you. You don't mess with me. So that it's nice to know now that, Brander is definitely going to be one of Maul's nemesises in this, let alone the Inquisitors and Palpatine himself. But Percy explains about this comic, it's meant to establish these characters, the world of Janix, which is going to be brand new, and then apparently we're going to get right into the meat of the trouble Maul brings to Janix in the first issue of the book. So basically, they're saying here, if you read the comic, you can read it alongside the series, but you're going to understand how these characters are speaking to each other, why they speak to each other in these tones, why they might not like each other. But Nick, we also learned that Captain Lawson is an ex-bounty hunter who is struggling to maintain law and order on Janix. So this comic, like I said, it's going to be a police procedural. It's going to be gritty. It's a grounded crime book explained by Percy. The stage is going to be Janix, the planet that Shadow Lord's predominantly going to take place on. So we're going to get a feel for the city already and kind of the crime noir feel that it's going for. We'll get to see the partnership between Two Boots and Brander before the series comes off. So I really think this is going to be a great prequel for those diehard Maul people, Nick, to get prepped on all the important locales and characters and plot points before the series drops on April 6th.
Yeah. I think that, it's cool that they're doing this. This is something that is nice for the comic readers out there. Here's what I'll say. If you're not a comic reader and you don't feel like reading this, but you're so worried that you're going to miss something, you won't. I will guarantee you, because they're not going to put out a five. So it's a 5-issue run. I looked that up. It's a 5-issue. They're not going to put out a 5-issue run of comics that you absolutely have to read before a
Well,
TV show
yeah,
comes
you're
out.
right then, because it won't even work. Because Nick,
No.
comic books are once a month, right?
Yeah. So the first issue
So you're
comes
gonna get
out on
one
March
issue
4th.
before the fucking show comes out.
Yeah, it's like the first issue comes out on March 4th, and the second issue comes out on April 6th. So technically, the TV show will be finished before the comic run is.
Well,
So,
it'll just be starting, but yeah, for sure. Okay, well, that's why we need Nick
yeah.
here. He's got a little more reading comprehension than I do, but I still believe, issue 1 at least is going to be a good primer for going into Shadow Lord. Then, kind of like the creators are saying here, just read the subsequent ones while watching the series. Maybe you'll see some nuggets in there that pop up in the comic where you're like, oh yeah, well that's why that happened in the show. So I guess I still kind of dig their reasoning for doing this, but yeah, I thought they were going to try to jam this whole thing out before the fucking show came out. So thanks for that update, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it is strange that this is like, can't really say it's a story that sets up the animated series when the animated series will literally be over. The first season will be over before the full comic book arc is out. So,
well, Nick, maybe it's just the first issue they're saying is a prequel, and the other ones are going to be supplements to what's happening in the show itself. All right, well, that is kind of weird. But we do get one more thing. They tease a bit about Maul having a very specific goal in going to Janix, and he says, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say much. Well, you're not, so I don't know why people always say that. But anyways, I'll keep it vague and say he's got an axe or a double-sided lightsaber to grind, and some folks on Janix are in his crosshairs. So more than likely, if we think about this is taking place probably 2 to 3 years after Order 66, based on StarWars.com's write-up, Maul was defeated. I mean, he was defeated by the end of the Clone Wars. I mean, the Republic, thanks to Ahsoka and Rex and the 332nd, kicked him off of Mandalore, tried to take him into custody. He got away. So at this point, we have a Maul. He no longer has his little fiefdom on Mandalore. He's probably lost some of the criminal shit that he was building up going into taking over Mandalore. So it does feel like he's going to have to kind of reignite or restart his path towards becoming a Shadow Lord, a crime lord. And Janix is the place to do it because it's a planet untouched by the Empire at this point, but also home to pretty much all the factions, and they're allowed to operate and do their nefarious things, even though Janix also has law enforcement that kind of, tongue-in-cheek, turn a blind eye, whatever you want to say, when it comes to the shady shit happening on the planet from the other crime lords. So it does sound like Maul's going to be going here to hey, Pikes, I'm back. Hey, Hutts, I'm back. Hey, Crimson Dawn, I'm back, and I'm probably going to take you over here in a little bit, and hopefully this series shows how I do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really interested to see how they spin it, because like we mentioned in our previous conversation about Shadow Lord, is like, we have a couple of things that we need to keep in mind about the character of Maul in this time period, right? Like this is post, like you said, this is post Clone Wars season 7, but it's also pre Star Wars Rebels, where we see him come back. He's all crazed. He's out of his mind. It's hunting
pre-Solo
down.
too, when he's the head of Crimson Dawn.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things that we can use as guide points here. It's like we're still seeing. So like in the beginning of the series, my assumption is like we're seeing how he builds up to this position that he has in Solo, where at the end of the film we find out that he is essentially running the Shadow Collective. He's running Crimson Dawn from his seat of power. So it will be very interesting to see how he goes about consolidating power between all of these different factions, and then ends up being this head honcho of the crime world. And then I really do hope that we get to see his fall into madness and what sparks that
more than anything.
So that's why I really hope that this is much more than like a 1 or 2 season run for the show, because there is a very interesting narrative that leads up to Maul's ultimate demise in Rebels in this, the sands of Tatooine versus Obi-Wan Kenobi again. I think that the crime angle that we're setting up here on Janix is very cool. Like knowing that it is essentially just like it is the planet of scum and villainy. Like if you think about, the uh, like the beginning of A New Hope, and it's like, look, this is the scum and villainy abound. What you're looking at here on Tatooine and everything. Like now we're going to a full planet where like the law is literally turning a blind eye to everything that's
Yep.
happening there when it's related to mafia activity and
Except when
underground.
Maul shows up.
Yeah. So I am really interested to see how deep we can get into that crime world. And it almost reminds me of some of the stuff that we may have gotten into in like Star Wars, like this super old game that was out there, Star Wars 1313, when we're going to dive into like the real kind of depths of Coruscant and like get into the underworld a little bit more. So I am excited for the show, and if we're kicking it off in a position to where like we're already in the hive of scum and villainy on Janix, I'm very excited to see how quickly things can escalate with Maul, especially knowing his short temper, you could say.
Yeah. I mean, I can't wait to see where things go. I did do a look up here. Apparently, Maul took over and solidified control of Crimson Dawn towards the end of the Clone Wars, but it was referred to as kind of his Shadow Collective.
Yes.
So yeah, we're gonna see him in Shadow Lord, him kind of return to that seat of power and probably take more power from the forces on Janix or the factions on Janix. So in the end, like I said last week, I'm excited for this series. I kind of like that it's coming at us fast. It's not going to be drawn out. We're getting 2 episodes a week for 5 weeks straight, ending on May the 4th of this year. And we should learn a lot more about our man in red and black, who, to me, he's already a top 5 Star Wars character. After this, like Nick said, if it goes multiple seasons, we get to see even more flesh for this guy's narrative. He could inch even closer to Mount Rushmore type of status, especially on the bad guy front, if you really think about it. So stay tuned to SWTS. We'll be covering all things Maul when the show drops, as well as the comic. My dumbass will definitely be reading them, even though Nick burst my bubble, and it's only going to be one of the comic prequels before the show even airs. Like, how do you fuck that up? Why are you not releasing it now in February then and let it play out through February and March? I don't know. It makes too much sense, but that's why we're in our basements doing this show, and people are making a lot more money than us over at Lucasfilm and Disney. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it. All right. Well, there you go. That's all like the guaranteed. This is real. It's news. Let's get into some of the fun stuff, the rumors and speculations. These are specifically from the Ahsoka Season 2 series, so if you're looking to avoid them, you might want to close your eyes or skip past this section. But I wouldn't say any of these are really like earth-shattering spoilers. It all kind of makes sense if you know what you know about Star Wars in the end of Ahsoka Season 1 with the Mortis God statues. But these leaks come from a Morai the Messenger on X or Twitter, so very appropriate name for leaking Ahsoka stuff. But the first one we're looking at, Nick, and I'll read a quote from Filoni that came from the Season 1 Blu-ray, apparently, of Ahsoka Season 1 of Blu-ray went out, and he does do some BTS. And this is what Filoni had to say about the Great Mothers, at least. And it'll maybe inform this leak we're about to talk about. But Filoni says, the Great Mothers, so those were like the 3 ladies we saw, and then all the little stasis tubes, are ancient witches who have somehow survived on this desolate planet, which is Peridea, for years and years in some kind of hibernation sleep. They live in largely a dead galaxy and a dead planet where war wiped out everything. So that's key right there. We have a dead galaxy and a dead planet where war wiped out anything. What sort of war could almost take out an entire galaxy? So keep that in the back of your head, everyone, as we introduce this leak. So if you're on YouTube watching this, the pre-record, you'll see the visuals here. But Nick, we've got what looks like very large, as the poster says, almost kaiju size robot skulls that
Mm-hmm.
are that
Yes.
it looks like, based on this little diorama that apparently Dave showed off. It looks like we've got Sabine there for sure, Ahsoka, and there's another character. Is it Shin? Who knows? But it looks
Yeah.
like Sabine and Ahsoka are checking out these large skulls. And by large, I mean big enough that it looks like one has an opening to some sort of cavern system. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
massive. Think like the robots in Pacific Rim type of masses. That's what these things look like. So Nick, looking at these skulls, they almost have like a Zepho vibe to them. You hear Filoni talking about how Peridea is a dead planet, and the galaxy itself is mostly dead. And the reason for the planet being dead and the galaxy being dead is there was a massive war that essentially ravaged the entire system. Do you think then, seeing these skulls, these rusted out fixtures that litter Peridea now, that this war might have been against these massive kaiju robots, or maybe they came from an even different galaxy, or maybe they are weapons of war of the Zepho or another species that use it to wipe out Peridea? What are you thinking on that angle here?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like these are definitely some sort of weapons of war from whoever was, either fighting against the Zepho or the Zepho themselves, themselves. I'm very interested to see like if these are going to be used as anything more than like set decoration and like filling in some of the past history of the planet, or if they will find like like a semi-operational one of these and try to use it or bring it to life in some form or fashion. But it is interesting to me that they describe this as a dead planet, right? Like we've already
Yeah.
seen
How do you kill a
life
planet?
form, but we've already seen life forms
The little
that
turtle
live,
people.
yeah, like on this. So it's not a dead planet. Like there are resources for these things to survive off of,
Oh, there's those
and
marauders too, right? That Shin ends up kind of
yeah.
taking over at the end.
So like the description of a dead planet, I don't think is necessarily accurate. Like when I think of a dead planet, I think of something like in our solar system, like Mars. Like Mars is a dead planet. Mars may have had life on it at one point billions of years ago, or may have life on it billions of years in the future. But as of right now, it is a dead planet. There is no living matter, no living
Right.
organisms that we have found on Mars. But this is clearly a planet that has inhabitants, that has resources that those inhabitants can live off of, and
Maybe
that
it's a
has
mostly dead
sustained
planet.
life.
How's that?
Yeah,
Mostly dead planet.
mostly dead planet.
Sort of dead.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I do think that like stuff like this to me is always nice, right? Where you can lay color down for a brand new area of the Star Wars universe that we've never seen before, and you can do it with really cool set decoration and storytelling like this. I never thought that I would see kaiju droids in a Star Wars like setting. Obviously, we saw them through, or we've seen something like that through Star Wars Visions and some of the shorts that we saw there. We know that not all of those are canon, or none of those are canon. But it looks like we're pulling some into canon now here. Yeah, so I'm interested to see what their involvement will be in the story outside of just like, hey, look at the remnants of the civilization that was warring on this planet at some point.
I don't know if this has any relevance, but I'm reading one of the comments here, and they bring up the Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, and Nausicaa, those giant cyborgs, were responsible for turning the world into a wasteland thousands of years before. And the image they upload does look very similar to what we're seeing here. So I don't know if Dave's pulling resources or inspiration from whatever the hell this Nausicaa shit is.
That is a Ghibli movie. That is a
Okay,
Ghibli movie.
there you
I
go.
think it is at least. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
It's a,
even
it's
one of the leaked images here does look like concept art, and that's very clearly Ahsoka is rolling up there, maybe a little turtle guy, and probably Sabine. But it almost looks like they're going to enter the mouth of one of these things. So maybe it's like an entrance to a cave system. And really, the big question to ask yourselves is: are these fallen robots, in quotes, whatever the hell they are, do they have any tie to the Mortis God carvings in the mountains? Like did another species send these kaiju robots to attack Peridea because they knew that the Mortis Gods had a portal there or something? This is where you
Yeah.
go with this type of stuff. So we
I
don't
think
have a
it's
ton to riff on, but my mind's like, man, well, maybe these robots were good and they were guarding Abeloth, or they got Abeloth into whatever prison that might be on Peridea for her if Abeloth becomes kind of the big bad, or maybe they were
yeah.
sent, like I said, to go after the Mortis Gods, their portal, their door system that's probably on Peridea that we saw Balin looking at. So who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
But
Lots of different options. And I think that what's interesting is if you look at like other recent um like other recent pieces of media out there, how there's like transitions between, gods being like these ethereal beings that live in the sky and you can only access them through whatever means of religion or whatever it is that you go through. But then there's also, like the physical manifestation of these gods on the planets themselves or on the worlds that they lead. So is that something that we could see, or that was the history of Peridea, is that these Mortis gods walked the earth or walked this planet of
there you
Peridea
go.
at one point, and these giant kaiju robots were what was built by the Zepho or some other ancient civilization to combat the gods that walked
Yeah.
Peridea and then banish them off to the realm that we see them in Clone Wars when Anakin and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan end
That's
up
what I
there.
mean. You could go anywhere. I mean, maybe they were the protectors of the Mortis Gods, and something happened, and that's why the planet went to piss. You just don't know, and we're probably not going to find out to 27. I know a lot of people are still holding their breath that Ahsoka is going to drop this year, but it's not on Disney's roadmap. You're not really seeing much action around it. I still think it's going to be a 27, but I do like that we're starting to get a few more little droplets of action from Ahsoka. Just like this next one here. And this next one, to me, shouldn't surprise anyone. And it's still coming from Morai the Messenger. But they put it behind a sensitive content warning, and I just do
Yeah, I
not
can't see
understand
it.
this one at all.
Yeah.
But I'll click show, Nick. All it is it looks like a wall carving of the father when he kind of has his wings. I think he was depicted as almost having wings in some of the other murals we've seen, in maybe in the Clone Wars or even Rebels here. But yeah, I mean, is this in a cavern that Ahsoka or Balin? We got to remember he's in here, played by
He's still around.
Rory the Man. Is this something Shin's seeing? But apparently, this shot you're seeing right now on the video feed of this episode comes from the set of Ahsoka, and it's very clearly the father etched into a wall in a temple somewhere, maybe in the side of a mountain. But just in case y'all forgot, the kind of the real fantastical mystical side of Star Wars is probably going to play a major role in Ahsoka season 2, way more than it did in season 1. And you would have to speculate, Nick, that pretty much any shot, any scenes, any narrative taking place on Peridea outside of Ahsoka and Sabine wondering if they're ever going to get home is going to be directly related to this stuff.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
stuff. We're going to find out why Balin wanted to get there in the first place. What are his plans with the Mortis God stuff? How does Shin come into play? Remember, she was discounted or discarded by Balin at the end. She is now running the Marauders. Is she going to be angry and messing with everyone, or trying to get back in Balin's favor? Is she going to stumble upon this stuff first? Who knows? But I love that a main component of Ahsoka Season 2 is going to be dealing with this very, very mystical type of side of Star Wars that we honestly have not got outside of the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars many years ago.
Yeah. I think that, and again, it's like, what can you really do with storytelling when you began telling things out of order and you continue to tell things out of order? Because like ultimately whatever comes of this is not going to be enough to really shake up the galaxy to a point to where it changes anything that happens in the sequel trilogy. Like the sequel trilogy, we're back in like very standard Star Wars,
right?
where like good guys versus bad guys. So it's like, what
It's all going to be
are we in a
self-contained,
world?
right? On Peridea
Yeah,
mostly.
it has to be a self-contained narrative, unless like what ends up happening. And like I said, this would be a cool thing, but obviously it may not happen, just given where we are in Star Wars and like what, you know, comes after this series. But it would be cool if like if there was kind of a big battle that happened between all of the forces of the known galaxy coming together to fight this external evil that is coming, or
Oh,
this external like aggressive force that's coming from this, you know, this galaxy of Peridea, and whether that be Abeloth or whether it be, you know, something that comes from the old war that had happened on Peridea at that time. I think it would be cool. But it really does feel like it will be primarily self-contained.
right.
So you know, it's a it's a really cool aspect of Star Wars that we're starting to get into now. But I think that the problem with that is that it's been so ignored, this mist, like this, the physical manifestation of the mysticism, right? Like, oh, look, there is like this holy trinity, for lack of a better term, with the Father, the Daughter, and the Son, and like these are real beings that influence how the Force works. I think that if you were to say this to 99% of Star Wars
What you
fans that
talking
have no
about,
fucking
Willis?
clue what you're talking about,
You
yeah,
mean
they'd be
Star Wars
completely
gods? What are you
lost.
talking about?
And the problem that I see with this narrative being the primary crux of Ahsoka season 2 is that it really doesn't fucking matter. Like, it, whatever happens in Ahsoka season 2 literally has no bearance on whatever happens in the future. Like,
Sadly,
it
he's
just
speaking
doesn't.
the truth. I mean, it's good. I think to me, it's very clear. Ahsoka season 2 is going to have two main narratives. It's going to have the prettiest stuff with Ahsoka, Sabine, Balin, Shin, and whatever the fuck's going on with the Mortis Gods and these now
Mhm.
kaiju robot things. And then you'll have the known galaxy where the New Republic is contending with the re-arrival of Thrawn, who just so happens to
Yes.
have brought 300 great witches with him that have been in stasis because they couldn't do their thing on Peridea because something kicked the shit out of them to the point of extinction. So I think at best, Ahsoka, Sabine, whatever, they get out at the last second and prevent whatever happened on Peridea from crossing over to the main galaxy. But then we're also going to have some resolutions in the known galaxy where, you know, I think Filoni has teased we're going to see Akbar go toe-to-toe with Thrawn in a military battle. So you're going to have that play out as well. Obviously, all being connected, Ezra's going to be thinking about his friends. Thrawn may still have deals with the Night Sisters, and he knows more about Peridea than we do. When it comes down to it, though, I still like what's on the drawing board here, or the whiteboard for
Yeah.
Ahsoka season 2. I think if done right, having both plots play out, even though Nick is 100% correct, nothing from Peridea can really impact the known galaxy. Otherwise, we would have seen those effects in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
And
So,
sadly, nothing that happens in the new galaxy outside of Thrawn more or less getting his ass kicked or teaming up with the Resistance, the Rebels, won't have a major impact on the sequel trilogy because nothing's talked
mhm.
about him. The Empire seems fully gone. The First Order needs to rise, and then the fucking Final Order and all the dumb shit of the Rise of Skywalker. So that's that. That is our
Yeah.
news roundup this week. We had a little bit of concrete news. We had some of these fun little rumors and leaks coming from Ahsoka. Hopefully those keep dripping more and more as that gets closer to release. As well as maybe, you know, I'm surprised they've kept Mando and Grogu under lock and key. It seems, Nick, after the Rise of Skywalker debacle, they finally figured out how to stem the massive flow of leaks that used to come out for Star Wars
Yeah.
projects.
Maybe they told people like, "Hey, don't leave a script underneath your bed in a
Right.
hotel room."
Yeah,
Like, that's step one.
John Boyega
So
sabotaging everything because he was all bent over the Last Jedi. Still,
yeah. So hey, I mean, here's what I'll say: we're roughly 3 months out from Mando and Grogu. I really hope it goes well.
me too.
I am. I don't know what to think about this release. Right? Like, I think that it is a huge, huge gamble. I think it's a huge gamble to have your first movie back after Tross be Mandalorian and Grogu when the last season was probably most people's least favorite. Um, I think that there are still a large majority of people who don't know who Grogu is because they only know him as Baby Yoda. So attaching his name, I mean, and hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully people will see the Mandalorian and then just know that, like, okay, well, the other person is Baby Yoda. And I I think that the narrative that has been outlined in this movie so far is not super great, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
But I'm ready to be proven wrong, and
I,
I want to be proven wrong.
I think what they're going for is some Star Wars fun with light narrative updates for the Mandoverse. I think that's what we're going for here, dude. I really think it's mostly going to be a self-contained adventure for these two to move them along, while I'm not going to say at a snail's pace, but they're also going to inch forward the overarching plot of the Mandoverse era. I mean, I think Filoni said this should inform us a bit about Ahsoka season 2 and events that might be happening in at least the known galaxy. So, hey,
Yeah.
if it's fun
So,
and it makes money, it'll be a win. I think for people like Nick and I, will be a little disappointed that there's not more narrative weight or connective tissue between what came before and after. But if it makes cash and people like it, it's ultimately good because it means Bob will finally start to have a bit more faith in allowing more things to go forward to the theater. And that's what I think that's what a lot of people want, at least us older fans. You know, the TV stuff was neat. It definitely was groundbreaking, and you most definitely launched two more famous characters in Mando and Grogu. But when it comes down to it, Star Wars is probably best served in the theaters, and this is their attempt to get back to it. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode. We've got our fan segment. It's slightly modified. We're changing things here just due to lack of participation. And no, we're not shaming our fans. We just know who we are, and we know that we don't have that much reach, and the algorithms definitely hate us because we do not bow down to the overlords who now bow down to the overlord. Tim Cook, we're talking about you. You have really let us all down. All right, Nick, that doesn't mean we're cutting out the fans completely. We've been doing this since day one at the SWTS. We love ourselves some Star Wars artists. It doesn't matter what they make. It could be toy photography, traditional art, hell, even AI art. We're not going to shame you that much. But we always do a top 5 every week. Depending on the type of show we're rolling, I'm going to pick them or Nick's going to pick them. All you need to know is this is all done through Instagram. Use hashtag Star Wars Time Show. But more importantly, add tag at StarWarsTime.show. That's how you're going to get yourself in the running for the top 5, which Nick has chosen and he is ready to introduce to you now.
That is right. So kicking off the top 5 this week, we have Attack of the Toys _
a new one
on Instagram. First time, I believe this is the first time feature. 10 years into the Star Wars Time Show, still finding new artists to toss
Print
up
yourself
here in
a
the
trophy,
top 5
pal.
levels.
You've made it. You've made it. It is kind of sad sometimes when we do this, when we're sharing stuff and we're sharing people that have like 10,000 followers and we still haven't hit 2,000 after 3 years of our 20K account getting banished. But it's like, hey, whatever. We're here. We're having fun. Yeah, it's a cool shot, man. Kanan, right? Bearded Kanan.
That's right. Bearded Kanan running through a dilapidated and abandoned Jedi temple, gun drawn, looking to take out his foe in front of him. I mean, it is a one, I don't see a ton of Kanan on the feed a lot, and 2, I definitely don't see a ton of Kanan when he's not whipping a lightsaber. So I thought that this shot was very cool, showing him more as like this roguish type figure, using the pistol, not leaning on his lightsaber skills. Excellent posing here. The diorama used to show off that abandoned Jedi temple also fits really well. Gives almost like an Indiana Jones type of space vibe. So,
there's Attack of the Toys even writes. It's literally a short story, The Cowboy Jedi, and then they dust it up. So make sure to give them a follow over on Instagram. Attack of the Toys with an _ at the end.
That's right. Next up, we got Karen Kolsch. Karen Kolsch.
A little mashup here, a little sci-fi mashup.
That's right. A mashup here between Avatar and Star Wars, two Disney properties that people really enjoy. What's the name of the big bird in
This
Avatar? Do you
this
happen to
is
know? I
not
can't remember.
Taruk Makto, but it is one of the smaller things that they ride. I'll look up the official name while you're describing the shot.
Gotcha. But yes, what we have here is our favorite character here at the Star Wars Time Show, Jar Jar Binks, on the back of one of these large
Banshees.
dragon
They're known as
banshees.
the Ikran or Banshees as they're called.
Yes, there we go. So you're on the back of an Ikran in the middle of the misty jungle-like planet of. I assume that he's on Pandora.
Sure, yeah, why not? Or
I
they Neytiri flew this over to Naboo, and they're checking out the Force here. But you gotta love Jar Jar just hanging on their neck tail, whatever it's called, where they make the connection.
Yeah, where they usually connect their whatever their Navi tails.
Yeah,
to
the tendrils
creature.
or whatever.
Yeah, so I really do. I'm a believer that Pandora does exist in the Star Wars universe, and that
isn't it in Jupiter? Like, doesn't it exist in our solar system? I believe that's
Pandora
the deal.
As a moon.
Yeah, I think it's a moon of Jupiter.
Yeah. So, maybe one day, 10 even further down the line, Disney will be like, you know what the right thing to do is right now? A Star Wars Avatar crossover film where
Avatar 10.
Some of the Jedi land on Pandora and meet the Navi and all of this stuff. So hey, you can kind of get a little bit of that in Disney right now if you go. So but I know, it's a fantastic shot. The use of atmosphere in this shot is great. Really gives some good depth.
He's hanging on for dear life, man. He's like,
yeah, the way that Jar Jar is kind of like just barely hanging on to the. Just overall, a super fun shot from Karen Kolsch over here on Instagram.
Karen Kolsch always killing it. She's fantastic. All right, who's next?
That is right. Next up, we have Digital Ronin, digital _
We were just talking about these people.
That's right, yeah. Digital Ronin, digital _ R0 in 1 N on Instagram. And it's a very fantastic
AI,
shot
by the
here.
way, Nick. No AI. They make that clear. Even the background was shot. There's no AI.
Hey, no AI. No AI. So this is all in camera or done with Photoshop, adding some flares.
We're still using technological tools for the people out there that are getting all upset, but it's okay.
But yeah, so what we see here is Shin Hati and Baylan Skoll. Shin whipping her orange bladed lightsaber, standing at the ready, and then behind her stands Baylan Skoll looking down at his apprentice, his one-time apprentice. All of this is kind of with a gray pallor, dark gray clouds in the background.
That's what I like. It's like a doting dad until he kicks her to the curb.
Yeah, just a really poignant shot here of Shin and Baylan as they are on Peridea and now separated, making their way towards different goals. So very excited to see where they lead in the show, and really impressed with this shot here from Digital Ronin.
Definitely quality. Next.
Indeed.
Oh, this one's fantastic.
This is a good one here. This is from Mando Mugshots, and this is I believe this is a custom figure that he's using here.
Yes.
That he describes as a Twi'lek Nikto hybrid named what is it?
Zortroth Gi, aka Aurora, Darth Aurora Erebus.
Eroribus.
Damn you, Mando Mugshots. They're like,
but Mando Mugshots always puts out absolutely fantastic work, and to have this this brand new original character,
he's so cool.
Zortroth Gi here. It's just such a fantastic. It's such a fantastic image. He has this unstable lightsaber that's just emitting sparks. This figure that was put together for this character looks absolutely menacing in the face, the body, just looks like an absolute terror that you would run into somewhere on the dark planets that surround the Star Wars galaxy. And the background of this shot too is so awesome. I mean, you see a dead skeleton in the foreground. You see this menacing figure here as the primary, and then in the background there's like huge monolithic structures that almost remind me of Dathomir when you were playing through some of the stages in Fallen Order and stuff. So just really
I don't
cool
know,
stuff
like
with random back shots.
Just reading Mando's caption here, maybe this is like a part of a Marvel figure. Either way, I don't know. It just looks great. Totally looks like he fits in the Star Wars universe, and definitely looks like a Twi'lek banged a Nikto. Like, I mean, it's spot on. So kudos there, Mando_mugshots. This is a great custom.
Indeed. And to close out the top 5 this week, we have Mind Trick Photography, and he's just given us a look at some of our favorite clone bros. That's right. Just looking at some of our favorite clone bros. They're staring at a holo of Emperor Palpatine, potentially giving Order 66 I mean, obviously this is not the trio of companions that you would see together when Order 66 came down. They were in very different locales in the galaxy, but for this shot it works out perfectly. You see that beautiful blue holo, you see all of the clone commander, you got Wolf, you have Cody, and then you have Rex here. They're all looking at the holo as the orders come down, and then the iconic line from the Bad Batch is the caption to the photo: "Good soldiers follow orders." Yeah, I mean, always happy to see some of those famous name clones shot so perfectly here, like Mind Trick does, clearly on the bridge of a Republic cruiser at this time, and ready to follow the orders of their master, Chancellor Palpatine. So
good picks there, young Nick. Here. Good stuff there from the Star Wars toy photography / fan artist community. Like I said, if you want to get involved, you want to be considered for the top 5 to be honored on the show. # Star Wars Time Show, but more importantly, tag us at Star Wars Time.show on Instagram. And that
is right.
That wraps us.
And yes, that's the end of the top 5, and that's the end of our show for this week. So yeah, Matt,
well, Nick, it's good to have you back. I'm glad we had some news to chat about, so we didn't have to sit here and rank 85 Star Wars games like my masochistic ass tried to do a few weeks ago. There is sometimes time for Star Wars time. That's the new motto over here. So who knows what will appear next week? Will it be recorded? Will it be live? Nobody knows. That's why you got to tune in. Make sure you're subbed up to the channel and our socials. I'll always be dropping those notifications to let you know when you can expect more of this nonsense. But we never leave fully. We're always dropping clips on our socials as well. We just had one go out today talking about Root Cass' appearance in the Maul Shadow Lord trailer and what that may mean for that show. So make sure you're checking those out. Leave likes, leave comments, share this stuff. We literally rely on you all to help juice the algo for us. Otherwise, the AI overlords, the technocracy out there, they shove us into a hole. They don't want our voices to be heard because we're just another 2 white man podcast that is not radical enough to get attention from the AI algorithms. But we love you. We speak your names. There's always time for Star Wars Time. And if you listen to the Star Wars Time show, the Force will be with you always.